Today, we're going to turn your deepest wounds into your greatest source of strength and power. My guest today is an incredible entrepreneur. She is a living proof that you can transform your wounds and your pain into gifts that you share with the world and that can improve your own life. So, if you don't know me by now, my name is Kia. I coach, and this podcast is in existence as a reminder to you that you are amazing and you deserve to be living your best life possible. And with this episode, we're going to show you how you can turn trauma into beautiful, magical energy that can help you thrive in life. So, without further ado, let's dive right into it and bring out my guest, Jessica. Now, she is the founder of Mozen Wellness, and she has something new she's going to share with us today. Also, you can listen to her podcast, A.L.I.V.E, anywhere you listen to podcasts. So, I want to encourage you to listen because healing, it's so necessary. And we're all walking around with pain points and core wounds and all of these things, right? And sometimes therapy just isn't enough. Sometimes we don't even want to go to therapy. We don't believe in it. So today we're going to give you some tools and some inspiration on an alternative approach. We're going to figure out if spiritual healing can really heal trauma. So let's bring her on. Hello.
Hello, Kia. What an honor and a grand introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, you are extraordinary. And I just want to share what your wisdom is with the world. So let's do that today.
Well, I am a wealth of wisdom, so excited to share as much as I can in the hour, plus that we have today.
Okay, well, let's get into it, shall we? I want to know. Okay, so what people don't know is that we met at a Podfest convention. So,
Yes.
and so that was an extraordinary experience for me. It was my first one, and I have yet to go back, but I will. And I'm so glad I met you because you have so much beauty, and I was just really attracted to your light. And so it was like amazing that we connected. And I really felt like what your mission is extraordinary and necessary. So let's talk about your mission and how you went down that path.
Thank you. Thank you. Down the rabbit hole, as I call it. Also a big fan of magic and alchemy, as you said, right? That can trauma be turned into and actually alchemized, right? Trauma into triumph, trauma into resilience, trauma into our highest self and really who we are underneath all of the layers, as I always say, that life has given us, right? Our wounds. And I always say our pain is our passion. And even you talking before and kind of looking back to Podfest and when we first connected, I don't know if you knew this, but I was in one of my lowest points on my path, and I'm 44 years old. I've been to Podfest every year, actually joined the community in 2020 virtually, has spoke virtually on 3 events. And that was one of the first, I think the second live event they did since the pandemic. I think that was 2023. If I recall.
Yeah.
And I was there alone because a lot of, and I'm going to be an open book today because I've been holding on to so much. And this is what I preach with my clients and everything in the world is expression, right? And trauma lives inside of our bodies. And the more we express and we let go and we release, we truly heal ourselves. So this conversation in itself, whether you listen or whether you speak as ourselves in expression, we are healing, right? We are breaking the cycle. And I'm sorry, I'm going down a lot of different rabbit holes in the moment, but I just remember I was there alone because my health issues that I've been healing from, that was a manifestation of the trauma that was unresolved in my body, right, can lead to chronic illness. And that's what I'm currently healing. I don't say fighting, we heal, right? Words are power, words are energy. And I was there alone because it caused rifts in my marriage. And that's what I'm being transparent about. And that was the first year he did not come with me. Because of that, because what we go through impacts everyone and everything around us. So the fact that you still saw my light amidst my complete darkness, and this is a lot of what I preach, like you open the show saying, can we triumph from trauma? I actually believe, and there's many different wisdom traditions that I study and follow that do speak this language, is that the darker, right? And think of a candle, right? At its simplest, a candle shines brightest in the dark. But in Kabbalah, which is one of the streams that I study, and I am Jewish, ancestral trauma is a big part of my story. So that's why I'm bringing that forward. There's a term called klipot, and that is basically the shell. So every time we experience trauma, a wound, we harden our hearts, we harden our souls, right? We become protective, right? Our nervous systems try to protect ourselves. And the more we learn to crack that shell, right? Crack that klipa, like that's kind of our, why we're here on earth, right? Is to repair that wound. We begin to reveal more of that light. So the harder the shell, the more the light is to be revealed. And I am living proof of that, right? The darker the dark, the lighter the light. And so that's why shadow work, right? I'm sure we've all heard of that, is very potent. And something that me as a lover of the light for years had so much trouble letting into my aura, right? Especially with, we live in a negative, extremely negative world, right? 70% of our thoughts per day are negative, right? So we only have about a 30% chance of, right, leaning towards that light, as well as a term called negativity bias, right? The world, just as a human, we are designed to be drawn to the shadow, right? And that's why some people are more drawn to the shadow, some more drawn to the light, some try to alchemize right in the middle. And that is our purpose here on earth. So my story, again, it's multi-layered, it's multifaceted. But basically it is a combination, just like my podcast, A.L.I.V.E with Jessica Silverman, of my 44 years, most recently, probably the last 10 since I became an entrepreneur. And I always say entrepreneurship is an extension of your energy and what you're putting out in the world. And so every day, before I create, before I post, before I show up on podcasts, anything that is taken from the inside of my core within my soul and radiated out to the world, I want it to be an extension of the energy that I truly wish, right, with intentionality. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be positive. People misconstrue the term alive as full, vibrant, right, full of life, full of energy, right, as you see me. But I'm only this way because I've confronted the shadows within myself. And the tagline of A.L.I.V.E with Jessica Silverman is healing inner child and ancestral trauma. So those are the two biggest components, right, of trauma. There's probably 4 different types, right? Main trauma, big T, little t, collective, and ancestral. But inner child, right? Childhood trauma, and ACEs, which is an organization that I'm highly aligned with. I actually met her at PodFest as well. Cindy Stanford, just giving her a shout out, the founder of ACEs Matter. I'm speaking at her event next month in Orlando, is where most of our trauma develops between the ages of 0 and 7. So that is a big part of my story. And I didn't know why. I didn't, I had a childhood that was beautiful, right? To the world. I was raised with 2 parents, in a middle-class family home. But I didn't know the depths. My parents kind of sheltered me a lot from my family and my ancestral trauma. Probably until my college years, I really didn't know. And as soon as I kind of left the nest, I started to explore, who am I? Where do I come from? Why do I have this lingering feeling of sadness? And I just don't know why. And that's what led me down the path of healing my inner child. I thought it was my job. So I quit my corporate job, right? And I started my business. But until I started this business, truly started to explore, the first question I ask all my guests on my podcast: who are you? Who are you? Beyond the labels, beyond I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a veteran, I'm a podcaster, I'm an entrepreneur, but like beneath all of those layers, and I get goosebumps as I say it, who are you? It's very Wayne Dyer-ish, spiritual, esoteric, right?
Totally. I was thinking that.
Right? But who are you? And that is the work that I do, is helping someone return to self, return to this place of home. That is the spirit of Mozen Wellness. And even Barefoot Golfer, right? A brand new business, which you teased, that I have been working with a strategist all summer to birth before I put out in the world. Again, everything with intentionality, is mirrored in that, in bridging the gap between the spiritual and the physical, right? To physically experience, but also to trust in the unseen. And that's a big part of my path in healing inner child and ancestral trauma is, and I believe there's a shift, right, of kind of this golden age of light workers, of us shifting to a new level of consciousness. So we're kind of seeing a lot of collective chaos in the moment, of breaking the cycle. That is another big part of my core of what I've done personally, what I help my clients do, and what I want to infuse in everything I do. And it doesn't just have to be this big trauma, right, that we're breaking the cycle from. It starts with our everyday habits, things that are keeping us from being our truest and highest and most elevated selves, right, from accessing our higher levels of consciousness. So again, I know I've talked quite a bit. I have so much more to share. But that is the gist of what I do, is kind of bridging that gap between the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual realms, and a beautiful blend of alchemy. I'm an earth, actually double earth sign in my natal chart. I'm a Taurus sun and a Virgo moon, which means I have 2 earth placements in my chart. So everything is about grounding, is about returning to the earth, which is a big spirit of what the Barefoot Golfer is about. And guess what, Kia? The earth is where we come from, right? We come from earth, right? We are pieces of nature. I look to nature for inspiration and everything, and we are pieces of that, even though we feel like we're different and we're so separate, right? We try to compartmentalize everything, but everything is energy, right? As the great Albert Einstein said.
Yes. Oh my gosh, what a great mission. I mean, I really feel that there is so much through connecting to your trauma that you can learn and discover about yourself. Now, I am an eternal optimist. However, I am not toxically positive because I believe that you do have to go into your shadow. I believe that you do have to face your pain and you have to mourn and you have to feel sad. And sometimes you have to be depressed, and work through it. Like, you can't just pretend it's not there. So when this whole war on positivity, I'm firmly against. It's not a popular opinion, but I think that people misunderstand it. I think that
I agree wholeheartedly.
Being positive does not mean bad things don't happen to you. Being positive knows that you can face it, mourn it, heal it, and move through it, and that you can trust in yourself that you are going to be okay again.
Yes.
Right. But sometimes we need help.
We 100% need help. And I am like you. I am not in the ideology of toxic positivity, which again can be misconstrued. When you see me online, I like to only put positive content out there, but I am not afraid, again, to confront the shadows, to speak truth. I was raised, speaking of my childhood trauma, I was raised with tough love. Like I said, my parents were the first generation post World War II. My parents were immigrants. They came to this country with nothing. And they knew nothing, about America, about, my mom talks about moving to Boston and being 12 years old and riding the train and getting lost and being an immigrant and not knowing her way, but needing to support the family and getting ice for their ice chest because they didn't have refrigerators. It's like, I'm only one generation removed from that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I see all of the things that people get so upset about, in our modern day world, we forget we are so disconnected from where we came from our ancestors, from the earth, right? From the essence of natural healing, natural ways of living that truly, I believe, we can use. And it's absolutely, most of this is absolutely free and accessible to each and every one of us. Again, this is a whole nother rabbit hole I could go down. But I know there are powers that be that try to keep us from getting this information. So I am always an advocate of being well-informed, really just doing your own research and tuning into your heart, what truly does feel aligned with you and your energy.
I agree, because I think first of all, I think there's enough negative information being put out. And I think that we all need a little bit of a social media diet and like to limit our intake, because people are obviously being radicalized nowadays, and it's not necessarily being used for the best of humanity. However, there are those of us out there that are doing that good work, that are like putting content out that is constructive and
Yes.
helpful and beautiful and backed by love instead of hate, right? And I
Yes.
think that's
Yeah.
so important as well. And I think that, we need people who are willing to shine and shine love into the world more than ever these days,
Yes.
right? As
Yeah.
we're all struggling, as we're all continuously, I feel like the 20s, the 2020s have been full of collective trauma.
Yes.
So,
It was the birth of 2020 was the birth of collective trauma, like we talked about before we went live, right?
mhm,
These last 5 years to me have been the hardest years of my life, but I'm finally starting, no pun intended, to see the light in 2025. I'm not there yet. Like I told you, there are many days I still struggle to get out of bed. I told you I haven't, not even my own podcast. I took a break from September of last year, and I said the beginning of the year, I'm going to bring it back. And January hit and I didn't. And February hit and I didn't. And March and I didn't. And it took me until May. And then I go, oh my God, it's my birth month. I'm feeling in my energy, right? Taurus season. I brought it back. And then June hit again. It was probably a month and a half in. And I was traveling and I was trying to preload episodes and, lives. And I haven't brought it back since. This is the first time I've been live on a show, including my own, since June, right, of this past year. Like you said, it's been a really hard and heavy summer, I believe, but also the dichotomy again of immense light. And so it's crazy to experience, but amidst all this darkness, I've amidst miracles, like living, breathing miracles. And so to that, I'm forever grateful. And that's what I lean on in my dark moments. And what always brings me back to the light is knowing that there is so much in this world that we don't know, see, feel, hear, understand with our five senses. Like we focus so much on that. Deepak Chopra said it. I heard him speak live probably before I even started my business when I used to live in Chicago more than 10 years ago. And he said, I'll never forget, we're 0.0001% of this universe. 0.0000000. I mean, I don't need to go on, but that means, and again, that could be disempowering, like we're nothing, or it can be so empowering to know that there are forces unseen that are greater than we can ever comprehend, but we can connect to that at any moment. And that is really a lot of what quantum physics, metaphysics, alternative methodology is truly all about.
first of all, now I know why I felt such a pull towards you. I lived in Chicago. I'm
Ah,
not from there, but I consider it my home. I've lived it for many years and I
I did
love
too,
that city.
6 years.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, I love that city. I was stationed north of Chicago when I was in the Navy, and then I
Oh,
moved to Chicago. I did like almost a year in Arizona, and I went back to Chicago, and I was like moved into the city, and I lived there for another 12 years. So
wow.
I absolutely loved Chicago, and if I could bear the weather, I'd go back.
That is
But,
why I left. Yes, it's a
mhm,
beautiful city and
yeah.
obviously a big part of my path. But yeah, the cold. I'm a Florida girl through and through, born and raised in Florida. So yeah, I spent 6 years in Chicago, 4 in California, and then I
Mhm.
moved back home to Florida in 2019. So
So I went from Chicago to Miami. Now I'm in the Pacific Northwest, which I absolutely love.
oh,
Except I have to get out of here during the winter because it gets too rainy. But like
yeah.
if I get a break in somewhere sunny, then I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I want to ask you something really important because I know a lot of people who will see this will want to know how exactly can I use spirituality to heal my trauma? And how do you help your clients?
Yeah. So that's a beautiful and big question. And of course, I wanted to have something tangible. So I sort of have 6 steps that I believe we can follow from the sort of grounding. If we think about our 7 chakras, and if you don't know about the 7 chakras, right, they start from the root, which is kind of at the base of our spine, think below the belly, and elevate all the way through our third eye and our crown, right, which extends to the higher realms, right? And I always say, if you don't believe in God, universe, spirit, just look up at the sky. And so I have these sort of 6 tips as to how we can access. And of course, a lot of my teachings go way beyond the 6, but this is a really good starting point as to how we infuse spirituality to heal trauma, right?
Okay,
To heal.
this is perfect. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to spotlight you. You
Okay.
tell your 6,
Yeah.
and when you're done, I'll be back. You ready?
Okay. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So 6 ways that you can use spirituality. Again, starting from the root chakra, which is our first chakra. That is our sense of safety, right? If you think of the root, it's below the base of the spine. It is our sense of safety. Do we feel safe in the world? And a lot of us who have experienced trauma do not feel safe, right? Our nervous systems are constantly triggered. We are going around dysregulated. Again, I am living proof that I have healed through this. So the first step, I believe, is to start with the root, to start with a sense of grounding. Again, this is what the Barefoot Golfer, my brand new business that I'm birthing, is all about, is returning to earth, grounding, safety. I actually have, I'll show you here, a cup of coffee that I'm keeping on this plate. So if you can't get outside, there are so many tools. I sleep with a grounding mat that attune to a specific frequency. This is 432 hertz that you can attune to. And again, this is the most tangible and physical tip. And if this is all you remember from today, this will change your world. The work of Clint Ober, if you want to research him as well, he wrote an entire book on earthing and how earthing can truly be the one thing out of anything that can heal you. And when I was in my darkest of dark, when I got diagnosed with this chronic illness, that is the one thing that I didn't have energy for, but the one thing I did every day was go for a walk and ground barefoot on the grass. Putting barefoot on the grass is the easiest way to do that. And again, to attune to that frequency. So grounding and safety, that can also look like nature therapy, can look like breath work, right? Breath work helps us activate chi, right? The natural energy in our body. Prana, right? Prana is life. It's breath, right? Without breath, we don't have life, right? So again, I start from the core, right? And then we elevate upwards. And then human design. Again, there's so many things I teach. I just want to kind of tease them all. And again, if you're curious, follow me. Would love to connect. So the third element of this kind of step 1 of grounding and safety is human design, which I teach with my clients. And again, that is knowing your divine design, right? Taking your natal chart, which is actually where all the planets were aligned the day you were born. And I always say the day you were born is the day God decided it needed you. The universe needed you. If God doesn't resonate with you, spirit needed you. And every day that you continue to wake up, which is why my podcast is called A.L.I.V.E. Life is so precious. Life is so precious. Every day that we are alive, we can access our divine design. And the more we know who we are, we can truly live and embody and stand in that power. The second step is energy clearing, right? So we can do the grounding work, but then, as I said before, lives. It's spiritual energy hygiene is what I call it. A way to cleanse your energy daily, right? We take a shower daily, we brush our teeth, we don't think about it, but do we cleanse our aura? Do we cleanse our mind? Or as Kia said, are we constantly connected to social media, to 5G technology, to all of the, as she said, the collective chaos in the world? How do we cleanse our energy? And there's many different ways, but I will just name a few. And these are, again, all things I teach in my sisterhood with clients, and again, will be incorporated in the Barefoot Golfer, which is an IRL form of for people in recovery, trauma recovery, all different types of recovery, physical, emotional, and mental, and spiritual, on the golf course, which is a sport that tangibly I got into because my mobility wasn't great with my chronic illness. I used to be a runner, a marathon runner, half marathon runner, but didn't have the energy anymore. And so golf is a metaphor for life, I believe. And is where the Barefoot Golfer was born. But in terms of energy clearing, there's a practice, again, I'll just share super simply. I light a sage stick or incense. They have all different scents to evoke different energies. And as I do that every morning, I have a box that the smoke radiates. I say a prayer. So again, there's intentionality, and I pray for clients that are suffering. I pray for the collective. I pray for myself. I pray for my family. Again, I'm closing my eyes so I could tune into this energy again. And so then the smoke that emits right through this box is in my realm, is in my aura, and is spread to the entire world, right? In an energetic sense. So that's really intentional. Of course, there's also chakra balancing, Reiki, sound therapy, which I truly love. And that's something that I'm going to infuse in the Barefoot Golfer, right? While we can be barefoot on the earth and attuned to 432 or 7.83 hertz, which is known as the Schumann resonance, that's sort of returning to center. We can also attune to different frequencies. They're called solfeggio frequencies through sound healing and sound therapy that just by listening, and again, this can be this simple, we can elevate our energies. We can lift above our trauma, our life, our circumstances, the negative thoughts, the collective chaos. Step 3 is emotional integration. This is more of the deep work that I do with my clients. So intentional journaling, right? Soul inquiry, guided visualizations, inner child work, which I mentioned earlier, inner child therapy is a big part of my personal story, as well as my podcast and the work I do with my clients, because most trauma develops between the ages of 0 and 7. And actually trauma recycles itself, I didn't mention before, in 7-year cycles. Shadow work, as I mentioned before with Kia, and music song therapy, because music is again attuned to specific frequencies. And actually, little fun fact, speaking of frequencies, my husband is a music guy, and I recently learned that most tracks were tuned to 432, which is a very harmonic frequency. But because, and again, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, people that were trying to keep us from truly what's helping us reattune the frequency to 440, which is more discordant. And if you actually want to try just Googling and listening to the two frequencies, you'll kind of see the difference of how we've been disconnected from the original frequency into 440, which is a lot more discordant. And again, why we're experiencing a lot of the collective chaos, it's programming. It's programmed in every facet of music, culture, TV, etc. Step 4 is spiritual alignment, right? So again, this is accessing, right? We're going from the lower realms to more of our heart chakra, our throat chakra, and our third eye. Prayer, devotional guidance, astrology and natal chart readings, which is what I do with my clients and will do with the Barefoot Golfer as well. Knowing your big 3 in astrology is a great tip. So your sun, your moon, and your rising signs, those give you immense clues, right? It's the trifecta of your divine design. Human design, ritual and ceremonies, right? Like moon cycles. You know, women, we are attuned to the lunar cycle, but we go according to the Gregorian calendar, which we've been disconnected from our feminine cycle over centuries from our core, right? You think of the medicine woman back in the day. And then crystal therapy, crystal sacred objects, which I have all over my desk. And I'll just show you one. And I hold them sometimes when I need to feel the energy and the power. Again, these come from the earth, right? So it can be truly that simple of just infusing your energy, your aura. Your home is the best place to start in enacting this sort of feng shui. Step 5, I'm going to try to not talk too much and go through this quickly. Embodied empowerment. So that is more of kind of tuning into the body, what we call somatic, which is a very big part of being trauma informed, and my trauma therapy, which is tuning into the body. A lot of our trauma began in the mind, but it lives in our body, and we cannot undo our trauma by thinking about it, which is why, like Kia said, therapy sometimes doesn't work. Talk therapy, we have to truly release that energy from inside our bodies. And that's through somatic practice. That could be as simple as a game of golf. It could be through trauma-informed yoga, somatic yoga, breath work, intentional practices, life design through astrology and human design, but actually living, feeling our design, and creative expression. What I'm doing right now, speaking, art, dance, music, physical manifestation of expression of what's truly in your heart and mind. And lastly is maintenance and expansion, right? So again, having a practice, something as simple as 5 to 10 minutes a day. As I always say, repetition is the mother of mastery. So daily grounding and meditation, even with just 5 minutes a day. Aligning with the moon and the planetary cycles. Every day our moon cycles into different planets. I have an app called, oh gosh, now I forget the app. I've shown it, the full moon app. And that's how you know when we have our new moons, when we have our full moons, and just educating and enlightening yourself kind of on where we are cosmically, because it has a lot of clues as to what we might be feeling or experiencing in the moment. And validation is key, especially for those of us who have been through immense trauma. We feel like no one truly understands us, but the divine always does. We're always aligned with the divine. Shadow and inner child journaling, right? Of course, getting it out through blogging, vlogging, posting, even something for yourself if you're not ready to share it with the world. I always tell my clients, only share the pieces of your past that you feel comfortable in every moment. Again, we have to feel safe. We start with that root chakra, right? Do I feel safe? All roads to healing trauma begin with, do I feel safe? And lastly, and most importantly, is spiritual community, mentorship communities like this podcast, like Podfest, like my own communities, like the Barefoot Golfer is going to be, and finding your people, your soul family. So thank you, Kia. I don't know how long I talked, but all just felt and moved through me. I always say God's spirit speaks through me. So I let it flow.
I love that. I love that. You mentioned so many things that I use in my practices.
Yes.
And I think that I asked the question, can spiritual healing really heal trauma? But I know the answer. And the answer is yes. Um, any one or a combination of the amazing suggestions you just made can be put into sort of a plan,
Yeah.
your healing strategy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think as a coach, I've coached thousands of people by now since 2019 through an online academy and privately. And what I understand is that a good strategy is the key. So obviously, you have to find what works for you. So a
Right.
mentorship or a coach to sort of hold your hand through that process is going to expedite things exponentially. Obviously, you can do it on your own, save the money, do it. But if you can, if it is financially feasible for you, get a mentor and a coach, and you will move through this process so much faster.
Yeah.
So if speed is what you want, then that's how you do it. But honestly, I one of my favorite things that you mentioned was frequency. I do a lot of sound healing
Mm-hmm.
myself. I love to go to sound baths. I love to meditate. I love to do breath work. I love to do somatic stretching and or yoga um, every night because it really just does help me. I also live with a chronic illness. And so with mine, and many, if you don't know by now, if you haven't been watching Hot Topics Live, if this is new to you and you've made it this far, you may not have heard that I am a survivor of child abuse. And so there's a lot stored in my body. Fact, in 2016, I had a kidney removed. Believe what you want, but I happen to believe that we store trauma in our organs. And
Yes.
I believe that yes, the kidney failed scientifically, but one of the reasons that it was weak my entire life and eventually failed was because of the stored trauma and my inability to move through that trauma and get it out of my body. And so for me, what you're saying about advocating for getting that trauma out is so important to prevent all sorts of illness and disease. And in fact, one of the biggest healing factors for me was art therapy when I started to paint really was and I journal as well. So like all of these ways to get it out of your body. And when you said, maybe you don't want to talk to someone, you have to figure out a way. One of the suggestions that I would make to add on to all of the wonderful suggestions you made and advice you gave would be video journaling. So maybe you don't want to write, although writing is very, very powerful. But a video journal has oftentimes helped me in the way of it's like my past self talking to me. Whereas I can get out the emotions and I'm talking to myself. And how you would do this is you can do it in the mirror too, but I find sometimes video is more powerful. And you can record a video on your phone, on your device to yourself using Zoom or whatever you want to use. And then you can watch it back later, right? You can also give yourself a pep talk that way,
Yes.
and even a voice note, and you can play it back to yourself, and you will just talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love, like a best friend or a parent or a family member that you absolutely adore, like your favorite person ever. And you're going to talk to yourself like that and give yourself a pep talk. Or you're going to pull your heart out and cry and get all your emotions out on video. And then what you do is a couple of weeks later, you're going to go back and watch that video, right?
Mhm.
And then you can record a new video on what you've learned, how you've come through it. Sometimes for me, I'll go back a year and watch an old video, and it will be so powerful that I need to make a new video to talk about that video and how far I've come or what I learned from the time of that experience. And I find it to be super healing, a great tool to like help you move through these traumas and all of the things that are happening. And sometimes you are experiencing an emotion or a feeling that you're not comfortable with anyone else knowing, but you can share it with yourself.
Yeah, that's I meant when I said vlogging, but also I just want to add, for someone like me, like I'm just talking about my own personal, because I have a lot of highly sensitives in my community that maybe are not comfortable with video. You mentioned the voice memos. That was key for me, especially when I first started my business. Like I would go on walks and it would be like either therapy or ideas would come up and I would speak into it and I could hear myself, but like watching myself on a camera might be a little bit
Truly.
not now. I mean, I've evolved a lot in my journey, but I'm just kind of going back to the beginning. Like just hearing yourself has so much power, especially, I mean, and that's my divine design is I have a very defined throat chakra, and in human design, my throat is very well defined and most of my gates are in my throat, which is probably why I talk a lot. But to me, voice is so powerful. But when you hear yourself speak back, some of us have uncomfortability like seeing ourselves back, but if we are looking in the mirror, but it is a beautiful practice. And again, a way to heal that wound if that is something that triggers us. But starting with the voice is incredibly powerful as well. I have my clients do that a lot because a lot of them are very camera shy. So I kind of invite them initially to do the voice memo. So
I feel that when I started this journey, and I landed on a podcast, I never knew that this was going to be part of my journey. You couldn't have told me that I would be a podcaster ever. Like, first of all, when I was a kid, it didn't exist. It's not something like when I grow up, I want to be a podcaster.
no, me neither.
I didn't exist. So I would have never in a million years thought I'd be a coach. I would have never in a million years thought that I would be podcasting. So when I started this journey, I was going through London Real Academy, where I coached. I ended up being a coach there for some years. And we were required to do a video several times a week and post it to a private Facebook group. So that is how I got over my fear of and disdain, because I hated to look at myself on camera. I hated the way I sounded.
Yeah.
I
A lot of
actually
people do.
had a vocal coach for 3 years so that I could bear the sound of my voice. So this is where we're coming from, right? And I do think so mirror magic is what I like to call it, is something that was also really difficult for me. And then I realized that, you know what they say is your eyes are the window to your soul. And so part of that magic is looking into your own eyes. And if you don't like to look in the mirror, I feel you. I didn't either. What I learned was find something about yourself that you do like. Maybe it's your eyebrows, maybe it's your hair, maybe it's your ears, maybe it's your lips. Find that thing and focus on that thing, right? And then speak love into yourself. And then when you can, look into your own eyes and speak love into yourself, right? And regularly, if it has to be 50 times a day, every time you pass a mirror, stop and do it. Like, it doesn't have to be an hour-long thing. It could be just a couple minutes or a few seconds, but do it repeatedly for weeks, like for weeks, for a long time, at least 90 to 100 days. Okay, till it becomes a habit, right? And you're going to speak love into yourself. And I promise you this, okay? And you can drop a comment if you try this and tell me if it works or doesn't work, or if I'm right or I'm wrong, because I'm going to promise you this, that if you do this, like I just said to do it, for 100 days minimum, you will feel a shift inside yourself. You will feel more love towards yourself. And then that ability to go on camera will become easier.
And I love it because as you're saying that, you mentioned the word mirror work. A lot of my teachings, again, in accessing the shadow, right, is the mirror within you, right? So, and the mirror, other people that mirror you, right? Mirroring in relationships. It's actually what I'm going to speak to in Cindy's summit for ACEs Matter for childhood trauma, is accessing the shadow through relationships, how other people in our aura, right? And again, this is a trauma-informed practice as well, is triggers and glimmers, right? So what triggers us is the shadow work, which can heal us, and the glimmers are those small, like you said, seeing your beautiful lips or your eyebrows, or if it's too difficult to look at that initially, the sun, the way the sun, shines on the trees or glistens, or rainbows, or your orchid in your backyard, like all of these beautiful everyday miracles that we have, that we're so busy kind of going through life, or kind of in our own depressive dark cloud. And again, I'm speaking of myself personally, but the triggers, that kind of, everything is a mirror. I always say that everything in life is a mirror. So whether that's physically looking at yourself or spiritually and emotionally, right? That's a big part of shadow work, is how others trigger us and what that says about ourselves. Why does that bother me, right? And what does that say about what's, again, it's not a negative, it's what's ready to be healed and revealed, right? And when we take that darkness and we bring it to the light, guess what, Kia? It loses its power.
That's true. And that's what we want. We want that dark to lose its power.
Yes.
And that's how we ascend in our own power, right?
Exactly.
That's taking our power back.
Exactly.
So I love this thing that you were talking about. I know that you have a speaking event coming up, and I love that you're talking about mirror work and how relationships will trigger you. Like it shines a light, a mirror on your own wounds. Let's talk about that a little bit more, because I think a lot of people may not understand that you do so much healing on your own, right? But you need to have a partner at some point to help you through the rest of your healing process in order to mirror to you what's unresolved, right? So will you please go into that a little further?
And thank you for bringing, and I love how this just all comes together organically, because after I shared my 6, you said something that I wanted to share about, again, this is a trauma-informed practice, the polyvagal method. And again, I don't need to go too far into that. It's sort of a traffic light system, right, of safety, right, which is ventral vagal, dorsal, which is kind of our freeze, fight, flight, freeze is basically what it is in a fancy scientific term. But the two, you mentioned ways to have like a daily practice, right? And you do a lot of the things that I said, but kind of I'm thinking for someone that doesn't know where to begin, right? Where do I start? Is having a practice of self-regulation, which is the self-work. And then number 2 is co-regulation, which is partnership, community, having a mentor, right? Not doing it all on your own or lone wolfing it, because a lot of us that have been through trauma, myself included, tend to self-isolate, right? When they're feeling trauma. A lot of my clients self-isolate, which is why I'm consistently checking in on them, because I know that it's not easy when you're in such a state of fragility to reach out for help. You're not going to ask. You need to be the one who's asking them, right? And so going back to what you said before of relationships, right? How do we cultivate that? How do we look within? I'll give you a simple practice that I use personally that I think is very profound. And again, with a lot of my clients is, again, going back to the trigger, right? So everything can either be a trigger or a glimmer, right? So the people in our lives, like you, where we have this beautiful symbiotic alchemizing connection and relationship, right? You're a piece of my light, right? And then someone in, but everything is a mirror, right? But then somebody in my world that might be triggering, for instance, who just jars my soul, right? They're also medicine. They're a part of my shadow. There's a part of me. It's less about the other person and more about what, again, everything is perception, what that person reminds me of inside of myself, right? A part of me that is still unhealed. And again, there's no shame on that. That's why we're here on earth. We're all here on this, right, in this meat suit to do that. Actually met a man, just quickly, I'll tell this story, sitting at a coffee shop where I was working the other day, and he's 79 years old, and he was reading a book, and I'm just an avid reader and writer as well. And I was just curious. It was called Reversed. kind of a lot of the collective chaos that we've been experiencing. It's a book about that, right? And how to kind of ascend. So anyway, we had this amazing hour conversation, and he mentioned, speaking of the meat suit, about perfection. So many of us try to attain this sense of perfectionism. We're so hard on ourselves, right? Again, that's the self-work. And he goes, as long as we can do this, right, we're not perfect. And it was so simple, but like profound the way he said it. So as long as we can pinch, right, pinch our skin, those of us can't see and are just listening, pinch your skin, you're human, which means you're not perfect and you never will be perfect. And that's okay. That's why we're here on earth. We're human, right? Similarly, relationships, no relationship is perfect. No relationship is perfect, right? Family can be the most triggering. That's always maybe the first and best, maybe not the best place to start. Maybe the ones that are more comfortable. But again, someone in your orbit that is triggering holds so much medicine. And me, who I've always felt, especially as a child, like I didn't belong. And so that's been a lifelong journey for me, is where do I belong? Who do I belong with? I've been consistently triggered in my 44 years of my life by many, many people. And I realize it's not about finding, yes, soul family, that's beautiful. And that can help you heal with connections like this, where you feel at home. But the people where you don't feel at home, they can teach you too, right? Everybody's in our life, as I always say, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And when you can see everything and everything that way, that everything is intentional, there's no wrong decisions, there's no wrong relationships, there's no, like I said, my husband and I, we're not okay a few years ago, and, we're still together and we're working through it. Do I have all the answers as this will be my eternal partner? I don't. There's still a lot that is not, not aligned in our relationship, in our dynamic, but it's continuing to teach me, number one, more of who I am and what I need and my values, right? And also, again, to love and respect someone else for who they are, and not to try to change someone, but just to listen and to hold space, but then make a decision. Is this somebody I want in my life or not? Right? Not to try to change a person, not to argue, to respect someone as they are, and to know that we're all on different points in our path. And that's okay. And that's beautiful. Someone doesn't have to be like you, look like you, act like you to be accepted. And I think that's what I had the hardest time with, in my journey. And that's one of my biggest traumas and triggers, is not feeling like I belong, not being accepted, not being loved for who I am, for what I had to say. So I stayed quiet, and kids thought I was shy, and, I only had a select group of friends, and it really took me so many years, again, to come out of that shell. But now I stand in my truth unapologetically. I don't cower because somebody doesn't understand me or doesn't, approve of what I have to say, where I come from. I mean, there's so many parts of who I am, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that the world doesn't necessarily love, but it doesn't keep me from speaking my truth. And I've learned this more, especially the last few years. That's a big part of my ancestral trauma as well. Is like, I'm not afraid to say who I am. I had a woman the other day, and I'm just going to share this, that follows me on Instagram. And I don't know what I posted. Maybe it was something about being Jewish. And she wrote me and she goes, I didn't know you were Jewish. And at first I was taken back, and I said, yes, I am. And I said, I hope that's okay. And I said, and if it's not, then I have nothing to say to you. I literally said that back, because it's like, it's who I am. You know what I mean? It's like someone saying to me, like, I didn't know your name was Jessica, and I don't like the name Jessica. It's like, it's just, and again, a name is a label. That's a really bad example. But, and then I wrote back, yes, I am. Actually, my parents are from Israel. My parents are born, I'm a first generation American. And she just wrote, O ... OH ... And I've had that reaction many times. And I just wrote her back, whatever I had to say. I don't remember what I said, but I'm like, listen, I'm here to speak my truth. And it was weird. I'm not sure she's all there, because she just started sending me emojis. It was a very interesting conversation. But again, I respect her for whatever she wants to believe, but I'm going to stand in my truth and my power. You know what I mean? She still follows me. She's still like, she wasn't triggered by what I had to say. But in the past, I would have said nothing, and I would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't post this, or I can't say that, because, this is my audience and I have an online business. And now I'm like, no, that's what the devil wants. The devil wants us to hide who we truly are and cower. I'm just going to say this out loud, and I will not. It's who I am. It's where I come from. Again, I don't over identify with anything either, because I just believe we're souls and we're all connected. It's just the lineage of which I was born in. And that's a deeper subject. But again, that's a big part, like you said, with the video, with the voice, is speaking your truth, and
I
not
agree.
being afraid if somebody dissents, right? That's relationships. That's the biggest challenge, is dissenting opinions. It's okay. And sometimes people get triggered by what I post, or triggered by the positivity. Funny enough, you mentioned toxic. They get triggered
Truly.
by my positivity, and they try to tell me, well, but blah, blah, blah. Well, but blah, blah, blah. And I just stand in my light, because I am not going to change my voice to attune to whatever energy is in front of me. I have to be me. And that's incredibly liberating.
I love that. Like, I just want to applaud you, because so as a Black woman, because I identify as being a Black woman, okay, which can be the most difficult thing to be in the United States of America, especially now. I get what you're saying and what you're coming from, and ancestral trauma and all of these things, right? I've done my lineage, and while there's a lot of races coming down the pathway and that make up my DNA, I definitely have had, slavery in my history. I've also had Confederate soldiers in my ancestry. Like, so there's a lot of different traumas and that make up my ancestral wounding, right?
Yeah.
And I sometimes will hesitate before I post something, because on my Instagram, not for this podcast, but for my private one at Creativity, which is where I do all my pinup, that is a very like lighthearted and very very just a fun place. Oh, right. So it's not political at all. But on occasion, I have strong views.
Yeah.
And on occasion, I will post something that is reflective to how I feel in that moment, according to what's happening in the world. And when I first started doing that, I was very hesitant, because my audience for my pinup doesn't necessarily give a crap what I think about what's going on in the world. They want me to like look pretty and be sweet,
Yeah.
which is what I normally am.
But do you
on
care about
occasion,
it?
but on occasion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to let it be known where I stand.
Yes.
And so today I posted something about a young man who was lynched in Mississippi.
I saw that on your stories.
And I hesitated for a second to put it and to comment the way I commented on it. Because my coaching, my business, my pinup audience, all of these things. But I did, because you know what? I think you're right about that. I believe that we don't dim to fit in. Like, I might have done that when I was younger, but that time of my life, like a week from Sunday, on September 28th, I will be 50. I have lived.
Shut the door. You are not. Oh my God, I thought you were like much younger than me. I swear I thought you were like
I liked
20s,
you.
early 30s. I swear.
Oh my God, that's generous. Okay.
Your glowing skin.
Thank you. I'm really excited, and I feel blessed, because every day is a gift. I truly believe that. And some of my dearest friends did not make it, Laura Wilson, past 40. And I recognize, like, I had a brief moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm turning 50. Holy shit. Like, I just got like, whoa, I'm getting old. Like, and then I had all these thoughts. And then I was like, no, every day is a gift. I'm blessed to be alive. And I made it this far in my life. And I will be damned if I'm going to self-silence, self-censor for anyone else is opinion, right? So I served in the United States Navy. I'm so proud of it, right? I'm so proud of it. But that means I served for the Constitution, and I swore an oath to it. And that Constitution gives you freedom of speech. I don't have to like what you say. You don't have to like what I say,
Yeah,
but I served for your ability to say it,
exactly.
right?
And thank
And
you so
so
much for that.
thank you. And if anyone else can say whatever they want to say, and I might hate what they say, I might not believe what they say, I might think it's destructive and horrible and all of these things, but they do have a right to say it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I also
100%.
have a right to not like it and to say what I want to say. So I love that. And I think that's part of
I
healing,
think that's,
right?
I was just going to say that that is where we heal. And I think at this point where we are today, more than anything, like that's our lesson. You know what I mean? And we're seeing it more and more, right, in society where, right, this free speech is exercised. And again, to what level is free speech healthy versus, right,
Truly.
dangerous,
Hmm.
right? That's another topic, but 100%. You know, I mean, I had goosebumps as you were saying that. And again, I'm a huge supporter of the U.S. military and our veterans. That's why Barefoot Golfer, I have a specific program just for veterans with special veteran pricing. And I, I want to devote my life, again, to anyone recovering from trauma, but specifically PTSD and people in the military, especially as a woman. I can imagine. That's why I've been so drawn to you and your message, you know, in the Female Veteran podcast. Just truly bless you. But I understand, again, your lineage, it's deeply tied to mine. My mother tells me stories. And I mean, again, I'm only 2 generations removed from my grandmother. When she first came to this country, my mom would say they were so used to, my grandma grew up in communist Russia, where you couldn't say anything about who you are or like speak your anything, any opinion, because the government would come and kill you. I mean, that was the reality.
Yeah.
And even when she moved to this country, my mom would tell me a story of neighbors were speaking on their patio, and I don't know what they were talking about, but they're like looking around, and my parents were like, "Why are you looking around?" And they're like, "Oh, sorry, we're just so used to that. Like, we can't just say what we want to say in public. You never know who's listening, right?" And
Truly.
when my mom tells, I'm like, I'm only a few generations removed from that, where my grandparents, we had to live in hiding. You know, if people knew who you are and where you came from or what your family name was, it's like, that's it. That's your
Yeah.
destiny. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that hurts my heart. And that's, again, being alive. You know, every day I'm on this earth, it is a gift. And I'll be damned. And I've realized this. And again, this has been a big journey. It was not always easy for me. Like 11, 12 years ago, I was sitting behind spreadsheets and I wouldn't say a damn word. My first video, speaking of video, was like I didn't know how to speak
Wow.
because of all the trauma, everything that I was holding inside of me. And so, again, besides it's my ancestral trauma, I just believe collectively, all of the speech that we hold inside, our beliefs, you know, hesitating to post a story. I go through that every day, Kia. I'm like, I want to post this, and I want to put, right? And it's like, and lately I'm just like, no, I'm just going to get it out there. It is so liberating because then I'm holding that trauma inside of me of what are going to people think? Are they going to judge me? And you know what? If they will anyways. So I might as well speak my truth, right? Because that's healing myself and healing the world, because then it gives other people permission to know, hey, Kia did that, so I have permission to do the same, right? We can be the light.
Truly. And I think we can also create a space to say we can agree to disagree.
100%.
And you are free to, like, if you don't like the fact that I posted that about that poor child, someone's son who was brutalized, you have every right to not want to connect with me any longer,
I
right?
agree.
That is your free will.
Exactly. And that's, we are the only species in the universe that God created that has free will.
Yeah.
Animals don't have free will, the plant worlds don't, right? And we
Mhm.
were created with that for a purpose.
And that's healing. That's
It's
like part
healing.
of your healing journey is to be able to speak your truth. And part of your healing journey is to be able to stand in your power and shine your light and, you know, believe as you choose to believe and choose to connect with people who you want to connect with, who's a vibe, and who is let go of people who are not aligned.
1,000%, right? And
You
that's why
know?
I kind of corrected myself with the relationships. Like, I'm not saying, okay, only be around triggers, But just when it happens, that's a lesson. But I've learned in my own journey, like you just said, I can heal chronic illness, my wounds, right? When I'm in communities that are aligned, right? With my
Beautiful.
values, with my purpose, where I can just be me and I don't have to live in fear.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, actually. I agree with that. I think community is everything. And one of the things, like, I love therapy. A lot of people don't, but I do. And I think it's like just a process to find the right person for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people give up because they get the wrong person. I mean, it took me like 6 or 7 tries to get the right person,
Oh my
right?
God.
And
I'm
so
still on that journey.
one of don't give up, girl.
No,
It's
I don't give up.
so worth it. Right? I
I
know you
believe
don't
they
give
all have
up.
a purpose. Even if like I look back and I think, okay, my very first mentor, like it didn't work out. There are lessons I've learned from every single one of them.
Truly, no failures, right? Only lessons. That's one of my big life mottos. We fell forward, right?
I would
So
say everything's a blessing or a lesson.
see, I love that.
Mhm.
So very aligned in our belief system, I think. So what I was gonna say is my therapist, she said to me before she left for maternity leave, right? And she gave me some homework. Right? And so one of the things that she said to me was to check everything against my values. And
Yes.
if it aligns with my values, then that is how to guide me in my decision making, right? Because I'm a Libra by nature. Sometimes I can be indecisive, honey. So like,
I
so
know my
this
brother's a
helps me.
Libra. I
This
grew up
helps
with
me,
Libras.
right? So this helps me so much. And she told me to look for things that make me feel hopeful and to visualize my bubble and protect what comes close to it and what comes in it. So
Mhm.
I think when we're looking for community and we're building our tribe, like this podcast is slowly building its tribe, right? Does it align with my values? How does it give me hope? You know, does it impact my ability to be hopeful or these people? And maybe they do trigger you, but looking at those triggers and working through those triggers, and like you said, self regulating and co regulating
Yes.
are so beneficial. And then it's all part of your healing journey and how you can tap into all of these spiritual practices that you can employ to
Mm.
move through that, and the people that you put in your circle the same.
Yes, yes. And speaking of spiritual practices and again, relationships, right? I said like I run natal charts, which is like your divine design, right? You mentioned you're a Libra, probably Libra
Mhm,
sun, then you have your
mhm.
moon and your rising, but
Yeah.
actually running charts for people in your orbit, your relationships, that's why I run my clients as well to see how we're aligned, right? There's a term called composite charts too, where you can layer your two charts together to see what collectively, right, in both astrology and human design are your collective superpowers, but also where you may
Ooh.
lack, I may have, and I fill your
Mm.
vase and you fill mine, or you may trigger me, right? Or you might fill me, right? And that's just, I think, a beautiful practice, right? For anyone to have to kind of tap into. And it's funny because it's woo woo, right? I mean, they use that term woo woo, but is it really? Because it's literally where the planets were aligned the day you were born. Like, why is astrology, astronomy, right? And the study of our planets in our solar system that I learned in grade school, you know, way back in the 80s. I'm going to age myself going to the planetarium, you know, with our school. Like, why is that not science? It 100% is, right? It's where the universe was the day you were born in, and it's consistently moving and shifting energetically. And the more we're aligned with that, kind of like I said in my 6 topics, you know, where the moon is, where the sun is, it gives us clues as to how we can navigate the world, right? Where is the energy? Where are we? Where are our relationships, right? And again, like you said, deciding, does this align with my values? Does it give me hope, right? Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, again, when people question, right, spirituality, I'm like, and this is just at its core, I'm like, does it make me feel good? Does it give me hope? Yes. Then it's real to me, right? Because again, everything is perception. And in a world today where half the time we don't even know with AI if something is fake or real, right?
Truly.
why not just believe in something that gives you hope, right? Belief is incredibly powerful. And again, I'm talking about the quantum and metaphysics, right? And energy. The more we can align our frequencies to what we believe, to hope, to love, to joy, they're all frequencies, as is discord and sorrow, right? Despair. It's all frequencies. In music, again, the black keys, right? And stuff like that. That is where we can align with our higher power, right? Where we start to see the hope, we start to see the light. And again, it's a practice because, like I mentioned before, negativity reigns, more supreme in our world now than positivity. But I'm starting to see the shift. I'm starting to see the shift. Like people are speaking out. I'm speaking out. Like people are, and again, I've been doing this for 10 years. And when I started my business online, people thought online businesses were not prevalent back then. People looked at you like, what? You're having an online business?
That's not a real business.
A real job. Right? That's a real job. And I came from the corporate world. I worked in venture capital. I have the resume. I rarely speak about it because it's not who I am. It doesn't define me because that's not really who I am at my core. I worked in corporate finance. Great. I have a degree. I have an MBA. Great. It has nothing to do with who I am.
I feel that.
My natal chart, my human design, that is who I am. That's who I was born to be in this world.
So we are an hour and 6 minutes in, and I have to wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, like, I need to have you come back again because I know if anybody is listening or watching this that feels like me, I need to know more about human design. I have like questions about this. And I love what you said about doing the birth chart. And when people, I feel the same way that you do about the planets, right? And I know a lot of people think, I don't go down a lot of rabbit holes or anything, although I do like rabbit holes, don't get me wrong. But
rabbit hole queen. I debated having a new podcast called The Rabbit Hole.
I love that. But I can't help but wonder, like, and I often say to people, so the moon affects our oceans.
Yes,
that is
our emotional center.
Right. And we know that it physically affects our tides. So you cannot, like literally the ocean. So you cannot tell me in any way, shape, or form that the planets do not have an impact on us if they affect the ocean and we're on the earth. And the ocean is on the earth.
We're 70% ocean. Our bodies are 70% water.
So you can't tell me, which is why I like to go bathe in moonlight. But I will tell you, my
sun and moon, that's the dark and the light, right? Again, the light and the shadow is in nature. The sun is the masculine and the moon is the feminine.
Yeah, I'm definitely charged by the full moon. Definitely. And I encourage all the feminines to get up out there in that full moon energy. Okay. So drink water, moon water, bathe in moon water if you can. I have a window by my bathtub, so I like to charge the water on full moons, and I like to get in a bath with
charge your crystals
herbs and stuff, charge my crystals, which I have tons of crystals. I believe in that energy. I think in a past life, maybe I was like Atlantean and was a crystal healer. I feel connected to that storyline somehow. But anyway, but truly, or maybe I watch too much Gaia, but the fact of the matter is I connect to that. And so crystals, I think, are really healing and can be used for a lot of healing, just like sound baths and all of these wonderful tools that can help you transform your trauma into, as my friend Lynn says, transform your trauma into triumph. Yes. So I want to thank you so much for being a guest. I definitely am going to invite you back. You should watch out for that invitation. It's coming via DM. I'm going to slide into your DMs and invite you. And also the Female Veterans podcast actually as well, because I really want to dive into the barefoot golfer on there. And promote that for my female veterans. I have some workshops coming up. So if you want to send me some information about that I can share, I'll be happy to do that. Sometimes I do one-on-one coaching with female veterans as well. And so just having all the I promote all the holistic and cutting edge alternative therapies that I believe can truly help my veteran sisters and brothers, but sisters, because it's the Female Veterans Podcast, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So, again, I want to say thank you so much for being a guest. Is there anything else, like one last thought you want to share before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just you mentioned kind of what I have going on, and this is just something that I have for free. You mentioned about protecting your peace. This core aligns with step 2 that I mentioned, kind of like cleansing our energy, protecting our peace. I have a meditation. I will share the link with you if you want to kind of link it up in the show notes. It is a meditation that I recorded a few years ago called Protect Your Peace. It is just 10 minutes to ground, to meditate, to close your eyes, and to cleanse your aura. And to, again, tune out all the noise. So I would love to offer that to everyone listening, anyone in your orbit, just a free meditation that I wrote.
I'm so excited for that. I will for sure put it in the show notes. By the way, if you have not checked out my show notes, you should check it out. There's a lot of information in them every single time and links and stuff like that to connect with my guest. So if you missed how to connect with Jessica, you should check out the show notes below. Also drop a comment, like, share, subscribe, all of these things. You know that this episode can touch a life. It was special. Share it with that person. Okay, because we're all going through stuff right now that no one knows about, or very few people. And so this can help, especially the meditation. So I'll get that in there as soon as possible. I want to ask you something. What
Or
is
Save a
your...
Life. I just want to say that quickly, being Suicide Prevention Month,
Yes.
September. I just want to bring that to light and just really quickly. It's always been something that I'm passionate talking about, being with mental health and the A.L.I.V.E podcast. But most recently, I had a calling to help a man. I had never had a man client. I mostly help women, like your Female Veteran podcast. It was just a calling and something. I just reached out to this man. And I had been mentoring him for 9 or 10 months. And end of July, sorry, I'm forgetting. All of a sudden, I heard that he was in a program. He had a mental breakdown. He almost took his life. And I've been even more passionate. Again, like, he is a part of my soul. He is part of my soul family. I know I had this calling for a reason. And so I've been, and again, that's what Barefoot Golfer is for as well. But I always used to say, podcasting can save your life. It saved my life. And I do truly believe that. And he basically had said that to me. He's eternally grateful for me. And I'm grateful that he's here. You know, and you just never know the impact that a word can have, a teaching can have, something you said, something you did, just being there for someone, just listening, your aura, your energy, it can truly, truly save lives. So, and again, I just wanted to say that really quickly. I know we didn't have time to talk about it, but it is Suicide Prevention Month. And if I can share with you, I also have a campaign for To Write Love on Her Arms. It's a charity that I love to collaborate with for suicide prevention. That is just raising money for those that cannot afford care. So if you would like, I would share that link with you as well. And I did that in his honor. So
Absolutely.
yes.
Okay, because speaking of veterans, there is something called the 22 a day,
Yes,
which we know is more.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an important cause close to my heart. And sounds like a good time to shout out my sponsor. Mental Health Code. I'm not selling anything. I just want to share it with you. They want you to know that they're there. You can go and follow them. They have courses and things. It's up to you. It speaks to your soul. But I just want you to have the information. So follow Mental Health Code on Instagram. They are sponsoring this episode, and I'm very grateful to them, and they're doing such good work. So mental health issues, super close to my heart, whether you're a veteran, whether you're not a veteran. You know, we deserve to be living our best life possible. We deserve to have joy and love and good experiences. And like I said, every day is a gift. So if you're struggling, go into those show notes, reach out to Mental Health Code, click the links that Jessica is going to send, call the suicide prevention hotline. Like, someone cares about you and wants you here, So anyway, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so honored and thrilled that you have been a guest today, and I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you. I can't wait to be here. This has been, I didn't even realize an hour and 14 minutes went by. It feels like 5. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for giving me this platform and this beautiful conversation today.
Oh, the pleasure has been all mine. So I'm going to put you in the green room. If you can wait, I will see you in just a minute. And if not, I will connect with you and we'll share all those links and get sorted for your next appearance.
Thank you. Many blessings.
Wasn't she wonderful? I told you she was going to be wonderful and insightful and informative and loving and kind and such a good human. So she and I are very aligned in our mission, and I just wanted to share her with you. So I hope you really received something from that, like it provided value in your life. Again, don't be shy, drop a comment, subscribe. Let me tell you this. I set intentions for these episodes, and I try to manifest for my audience that you experience love and good energy and positive things happening in your lives. So definitely connect with me through that energy. To connect to my energy, I will ask that you subscribe so that I can connect to your energy, so that you can be part of my hotties tribe, and that I can more easily put those intentions out to the people who this podcast matters to. And because it matters to you, you definitely matter to me. Okay, so you know what time it is. If you've made it this far in the episode, it's time that I do something really special for you. But before I do, just a quick reminder. If you want to know how to do a podcast like this one, super easy. This is the easiest way to do a podcast. If you would like to know how to do it in my style of podcasting, and that's easy and inexpensive, then go to the link below and click on my link. And also send me a DM on Hot Topics Live podcast on Instagram. And we can talk about coaching and how I can help you get started. And a lot of times what happens with podcasting is consistency becomes an issue. So sometimes you might need someone to help you be accountable. And I do that as well. So that's, if you're interested in something like that. Pinup. You know about my pinup. If you want to see my pinup, then you will follow me at Creativity. You can follow me in all of these places, okay? And support my work and spread some love to me, and I'll spread some love back to you. But if you like pretty pictures, classy, not scandalous, then you can follow my pinup journey. I really am just getting started. Although, can I really still say that if I've been in 10 magazines now? But if you like pretty pictures, you like vintage vibes, then go check out my pinup on at Creativity and support that. There are links so that you can purchase the magazines. You can get them in print or a digital version if you like. And stay tuned, because I am working on a pinup project of my own. So follow along so you know about that journey. And now, without further ado, let's do the thing that I know you love. Let's get you a Soul Truth Awareness card to help you on your journey today, as if Jessica wasn't helpful enough, right? Soul Truth Self-Awareness card deck. We're going to play a little cards. Shout out to Brianne Hovey for making such an amazing tool of guidance for your life. So, take a deep breath. We talked about breath work. So important to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle up these cards, right? And then I'm going to let one fly out so we know it's truly at random and I'm not dictating the message. Your higher self is source, God, Allah, whoever you believe in. It's all welcome here, honey. So you tap into that energy because, like Jessica said, everything's energy. And I'm going to get you one of these cards, and we're going to see what your soul truth message is for today. Shall we? Let's see what comes out for you. And if you love this part of the show, drop a comment. Let me know. I love my comments. I love my listeners, viewers. I love you. Time is something we never get back, right? So you spending your time with me means everything, okay? Especially if you made it to the end of this episode. Hold on, it fell. Hold on, I got it. All right, let's see. Ooh, okay, you got, am I focused on what I want most? Okay. It says, one reason so few of us achieve what we truly want is that we never direct our focus. I feel dragged. We never concentrate our power. Most people dabble their way through life, never deciding to master anything in particular. That is from my boo of life, Tony Robbins. Okay, that's a quote from Tony Robbins. I love him. I've done so many of his courses, and we love that. Okay, today's soul action, what you focus on grows. Today, ask yourself, is my life a reflection of my values, or do I need to make adjustments? Prioritize. See? See? Okay, that's your message. Thank you for watching, listening, all of that stuff. I love you guys. I will be back with another episode of Dating After Divorce, probably next week. But I never know when I come live. So you need to set your notifications so that you can watch live. Otherwise, drop a comment. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. If you liked anything about this episode, drop a comment, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. You know how the algorithm stuff works by now. Like, hook me up. Okay. So tune in for the next episode of Dating After Divorce. If you haven't seen the last one, it's out there. So go check that out. And I'll be back with another amazing guest for Hot Topics Live podcast very soon. Set your notifications. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.